because I forgot about the time thing. Good Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News from the Pew, where the internet has broken, and let's try to talk about it and or fix it. I am Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic. Well, the Armed Papist, the Armed Catholic, Sword and Saints. I don't know. It's probably going to be the Armed Papist at this point.
I like that. He's got a good role to it.
I mean, Brother Andre's Brother Andre, and when Brother Andre speaks and he brings up something, that's actually, it's pretty poignant, so it'll probably be like that. And yes, I am wearing my finest Fetterman outfit today. I'm pulling my finest John Fetterman. But I'm always glad to be joined by the one and only Steve Cunningham. How are you, sir?
I'm well, young squire. Thank you for asking. Glad to be here.
Squire? Is that what you said? Just call me Squire. Interesting. I'll take it. That's fine. Don't worry about me. But
you're sporting your Fetterman outfit with the Rhode Island hat, so you.
I know. Well, all my good hats are like, I gotta wash them. And my other good, the one I always wear, because I use a green screen, sometimes it goes invisible. So it's not, I can't count on it the entire time. So that's not great either. So ends up with the Rhode Island hat. So I'm looking to see if I can buy, I'm probably gonna buy like a good black, just a black hat. So that way I don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, the troublings of a not even niche internet celebrity. I'm not even an internet celebrity. I'm just a guy here. Oh man, whew. Trying to get around.
It's 3:30. I feel like I've been hit by a truck.
I just ran straight over. But
I feel like I've been in an airplane that collapsed or flew or went upside down or didn't land. A DI plane. It's just one of those.
Hey, if that was the case, you'd get 30 grand. No questions asked from Delta. Which everybody's like, don't take that. If they're going to give you 30,000 off the top, no questions asked, that means you got a real good case there. So do not take that 30 grand at all. Although I'd be like, I might just take it. I would just take it and be like, I'll move on. I'll go on my merry way. But yeah, I don't know if you heard the second part. They were like, yeah, you want 30 grand to just be quiet and go away. And people were like, no, I think I'll pursue it. So, we got that. We've got trouble in conservative paradise because Trump did what, it was a campaign promise. He went through on the campaign promise to allow IVF to be more affordable or whatever the case may be, however you want to call that. He is now, promises made, promises kept. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We also have the entire thing about USA versus Canada. We didn't do well. It's hockey. Who cares? Elon is continuing to be worshipped by the right, which doesn't really shock anybody. And of course, anything else that we kind of dig a little rabbit hole into today. So it'll be a good time, folks. If you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the fun things to ensure that we continue to stay on the air. I don't think it helps. Just say that more people will get it, and the more people that get it, the better it is, because there are very few voices, and I'll leave it to Steve on the next one, that actually, especially nowadays, if you want to say we're conservative or right, I wouldn't put us in that category, but that are not that are not willing to call out the nonsense, right? And I'm specifically referring to Trump and his IVF stuff. But Steve said this before when Trump did the first AI jab on his second day in office, and everybody was quiet. So if everybody was quiet then, why wouldn't it be a shock, Steve, that everybody's quiet now?
I'm glad you brought up the day 2 of the.
Yeah, I'll learn eventually, bud. I'll learn eventually.
The Trump administration, but I mean, it's it was that famous interview with Raymond Arroyo when Raymond brings him up, goes, as Catholics, this doesn't fly too well. What you're talking about? That was September, October, and everybody was losing their minds about that, and everybody was losing about RFK before then, and just because he said something in an interview, and they're, oh no, we can't have him because he said this, which wasn't even a pro-abort speech, wasn't even anything like that. Now you got Donald, who comes out months later and pretty much says, well, I'm going to make sure IVF's pretty much covered by Medicare, and I'm going to have the government pay for it. Well, what's worse? You had all these people going after RFK. We can't have RFK. He didn't. He said that what he actually said was that don't want the federal government controlling abortion. It should be back to the states, which was the whole thing about Dobbs, which again gets into everyone converting, and which ends up they Pro-Life Inc. and throws them out of the loop because they can't make any money when abortion's gone. But Donald comes out and says, and you got people bending over backwards, Susan B. Anthony, pro-life group saying, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, priests, former Frank, man, that reading his stuff it's hard to read through it. Oh, don't worry about it. It's just it's like, man, no, you're making peace with that kind of stuff. And yes, people have said, they've called it out, as I was corrected today. Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles have both done videos on it. And, you've also had Lily Rose. Some, people have said some things, saying they've said IVF is wrong. Now, I don't watch the Daily Wire. I get it. I don't know if Matt Walsh's video or Michael Knowles' video, because I know Lily Rose didn't. Nobody has addressed the Trump administration directly. They said it's awful what the Trump administration has done. IVF is wrong. My point is with that kind of stuff is they tiptoe around it, right? If I'm making myself queer, making myself queer, I've made myself queer too. Make myself clear. Everybody kind of dances around. They say it's wrong, but they won't directly say, fix it, Trump, or get rid of it, Trump. You're wrong, Trump. A lot of nobodies have said it's wrong. But nobody with access to the people in the levers and the positions of power or the policymakers has called them out. Listen, I like JD Vance. He's great for the memes and stuff. Where is he right now, man? Where is he? Right? Where's Caroline? And I know what you're going to tell me, Rick. She works for him. What did you want her to do? I understand. Have a spine. Resign. I get it, folks. I know we're in the honeymoon period right now, and I know it's like, how would you resign from the most? Look at what we're doing, and we're winning, and we're owning the libs, guys. IVF is the back. It's how they're gonna. It's bad, man. It's a back door into the abortion debate. The left has successfully tied IVF to abortion, so we can't even you're going to get rid of IVF because of. Remember, it's not abortion that the left fights for. It's reproductive rights. And that's what happens when you allow them to dictate that conversation. And so it's not been a great week if you think about it. No, 100%. I mean, all the big names. Usually if, say, Brandon or Obama would do anything, sneeze the wrong way, and cough, hiccup, say anything about they're running over their mama trying to type over there, wherever they're out, they're dropping everything, selfies, video, whatever. Breaking news, Jack. They don't see anything right there, right? And, Jack ain't saying anything. I mean, Dr. Marshall, hey, man, I don't hate you, man, but you ain't said anything.
With Jack, just because you mentioned him, it's very see-through why he doesn't say anything, because he's he's hanging around with Hezbollah right now. He's getting invited to go overseas and doing all these other things, and I get it. That you're right about.
Get invited to Mar-a-Lago if you call him out or anything like that. Father Heilman is putting this Catholics for Catholics thing. You look at his Facebook page; he's like, yeah, it's not. We shouldn't be focused on that, guys. Be consistent. Have some integrity in you to be able to call these guys out instead of just selling out to them. Call it out. I mean, you would do it for Brandon. You would do it against Obama. But Trump, you go quite, we're going to twist. We're going to do some Jimmy Akins gymnastics or whatever. I mean, that was that whenever Jimmy says something, everyone comes out and says that he's doing gymnastics. Yeah, Matt said something. I think Michael said something, Knowles, 2 days later. Again, those guys would do it immediately. Well, we're live right now, dude. But for some reason, Donald gets away with it. I mean, again, RFK, when he look at it, go back in those guys' history. You look up when RFK said anything about that in that interview. And again, I was out there saying, guys, he didn't say he's for killing babies up to their birth. He just said the government should be involved. The federal government should not be involved in it, which they shouldn't. None of it. I mean, that's the entire argument about federalism. But no, they were out there condemning him to the fourth realm of hell for it. But Donald comes out saying something that's worse, in a sense, more deaths, and being in charge, wanting the government to fund it. Again, RFK saying he doesn't
making it more, making it more affordable, giving it more access, which is just. I hope everybody understands what happens in IVF. In case you don't know, they scrape the eggs out of the woman. The guy has to do the thing by himself, and then they put it in a petri dish, and then the baby is created. And then they look at it and they run tests to see who has the highest statistical probability of being viable. And then based on that, they use those and ditch the rest of them. The souls that are already in those babies are literally thrown in the trash can because they're not supposedly viable. And so it's absolutely horrendous that this practice is even allowed.
It's an emotional thing. It's a very emotional thing. People use, we want more babies, want this. Yeah,
guys,
get that.
Folks,
that's not the whole story.
I think I'm uniquely positioned to speak on this because I haven't, my wife and I don't have kids, despite the fact, and it hurts, but it's God's province. Okay, it's God's province that is. We will never do. We've never been a consideration because of our Catholic faith, because of the horrendous things that happen there, and so you can't use the emotional argument of, and ironically enough, Emily, what?
Look at all the biblical stories. Our Lady's
Oh
parents.
yeah, they're terrible. They're terrible, and it's just.
Well, no, looking at Our Lady's parents, they go through a whole life. They can, they're cursed because they didn't have, they're barren, and then Anne and Joachim gets Our Lady at a very old age, or if Elizabeth.
If God wants it to happen, it'll happen, and that's what it's kind of like for Catholics in that idea. Do you trust God enough, or do you trust science? Oh well, it's not happening on my timeline, so I need to do this now. Well, God's telling you not now. Obviously, God's telling you not now. And I have to give a quick shout out.
They treat kids like pets.
Yeah.
Like I need that one great video that Choice 42, I think, puts, it goes into that. I want a blonde hair. I want a blue eye. I want that. It gets into eugenics in a sense, because you're picking the best. You want these categories. You want these characteristics.
Yeah.
Now it's not up to God. Now you're actually creating the whatever you want in whatever, like check mark. I want this. I want this. I don't want this.
And I think that also that there was a huge deafening silence from the right earlier this week when Ashley St. Clair and Elon, they had their IVF baby, and she let it slip that they pretty much did that. They played checklists with that, and Jack and all these Catholics ran over and were like, great job. And before I want to really give a quick shout out to Emily Grace Rainey. She's on Instagram, and she's a huge Catholic account on there. She was on this much larger platform with the Quartercast. She was on there with Hannah Claire Brumlow and another girl, and they brought this up, and she absolutely put the hammer on both of them. As far as like, hey, we're Catholic, and she gave all the statistics on why IVF. And the other girl, bless her heart, she was a nice girl, but she's like, we need to have more kids. We need to have more kids now. And, we have a population problem, and this can help us out. And Emily was like, listen, we got to look at the other factors. Like, what are the environmental factors that are causing people not to have kids? Yeah, I get the having kids later at 28, 29 makes it, harder and all these other things. I get it, but there are also environmental things. What are we eating? What are we ingesting? And all this other stuff, instead of running to science and saying, because people also think like IVF, it's instantaneous. It also based on age. if you're younger in your 20s and stuff like that, I think it's 30% chance that that'll, for lack of a better term, hold. The older you get, the more rounds you have to do because they don't catch and they don't fertilize. And it's an absolutely abhorrent process that has been normalized. And first of all, folks, it's like $10,000 around right now. And that's the amount of money that you and I are going to have to subsidize now, because that's what we're talking about, right? See, we're talking about government subsidization to make it cheaper.
Government healthcare.
Government healthcare to make this work.
It's okay when we do it.
Government subsidization to make this work. It's terrifying on so many levels. That's why I'm very, I gave you a little bit of personal information before. It is what it is when you're online. You have to do that kind of stuff. But people.
You're right on the poisons. I mean, the poison in the water. California had contraceptions in the drinking water, which ended up taking down the fertility rate of men. And your devices. They talk about that. If you put it like a laptop on your lap, it will the radiation will zap you in that area.
It'll burn. Let's just say it's warm.
You put your phone in your pocket. It's the same idea. I mean, that's why there's these groups with EDF, I think it is
the electromagnetic fields.
EMFs. The blockers, but I mean the phone won't work without that. And that's, again, you look at last week when we talked about Elon coming out with wanting to get out sixth generation what's the stuff that the towers they're building.
Oh yeah.
But it's not Wi-Fi 6, but
Starlink.
No, Starlink. I got Starlink coming up with the moon rock thing with the with Biden all the way up. I got that. Someone help me out there. What's all the crap that's coming out? I'll think about it later.
There's a lot to choose from, buddy. There's a lot to choose from.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lady out there talking about. She was on Corbett a few months, maybe a year ago. I wish I would have remembered to put her site up or what have it. Maybe I'll try to find it and let everyone know next time. When she talks about how the sperm rate is low across the board because what you eat, what you drink, 6G. Thank you, Mendez, 6G. Because that's going to be even more radiation in there. I mean, there's people that, you got, like I said, cut off my Wi-Fi just to, protect inside because I got these things. And there's videos of people painting their houses with this black rubber thing to protect the house from the EMS. And that's a real legit thing. There's blankets, all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you get that, and you on top of it with the food, and notice the food, and go into the chickens that they're going after. Now they're injecting the chickens. I don't know if we want to get into that first or not. But
if we're that far at that point.
Well, it all gets tied in. These guys do that. I mean, this leads to this, and we're coming in at so rapid of a pace that, I mean, I was going through my list about all the stuff to get out and just collect. I'm going, holy cow, this take me 10 minutes just to scroll back for last week when we got done, of all the things that are coming out in just so rapid a pace to make you overwhelm in a sense. There's so much coming out to overwhelm, to distract. And then after about 4 days, there's something else coming out. You forgot about that one thing back then. And you're getting poisoned from literally all levels. Everything. And now, let me go ahead and get the because people have already commented about wanting to hear about the chickens.
We want the chickens. Tell us about the chickens.
Yeah. First off, let's look at the Avian. This is from a week or two ago.
Grocery store. I shop for our family in part because I love to look at prices. And there were no eggs at the store yesterday, just a few. And so that happened because they killed all the chickens. And so what we need to do is have better ways with biosecurity and medication and so on to make sure that the perimeter doesn't have to kill the chickens. We have a better, smarter the grocery store. I shop for our
listen to that perimeter thing.
Family in part because I love to look at prices. And there were no eggs at the store yesterday, just a few. And so that happened because they killed all the chickens. And so what we need to do is have better ways with biosecurity and medication and so on.
Biosecurity and medication for chickens.
To make sure that the perimeter doesn't have to kill the chickens. have a better, smarter perimeter.
What perimeter?
So having a smart perimeter is what we're working on, and we're finalizing the ideas about how to do that with the best scientists in government. And that's the kind of thing that should have happened a year ago. And if it had, then egg prices would be, a lot better than
the
they are now.
chickens
But the
would
avian
be
flu is
fine.
a real thing.
They'd be
And by
sick,
the
but
way,
they'd be
it's
fine.
spread mostly by ducks and geese. And so think about it. They're killing chickens to stop the spread, but chickens don't really fly. The spread is happening from the geese and the ducks. And so why does it make any sense to
we gotta
have a big
inject them
perimeter
too
of dead
now?
chickens when it's the ducks and the geese?
Yeah, and you should. I mean, you heard that. I mean, biosecurity Medicaid. What in the world? There's a AG Web from 5 days ago, spearheaded by a National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett and USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins. The plan prioritizes enhanced biosecurity measures and medication to control the spread of the virus and moves away from mass culling of infected flocks, which, that's the whole thing they keep going is, oh, well, Brandon decided to kill all the chickens, so we got the actual solution, which is probably worse than the other. Key points of new strategy. Biometric medication, improved containment protocols and medication aimed to reduce reliance on culling chickens. Smart perimeter approach, targeted containment methods will enhance efficiency in preventing outbreaks. Collaboration, government scientists, and global academic experts are contributing to the plan's development. Anytime you hear expert, you should run. Recent developments, vaccine approval. Zoetis, maybe, received the conditional USDA approval for the avian flu vaccine. That is during DJT's reign, ladies and gents. Yep. Industrial support, major poultry and dairy organizations back vaccine used to control the virus.
Yep.
Concerns.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and all of this is happening, as Steve correctly said, under the watchful eye, DJT. And do we hate DJT? No, we don't. It's just that, once again, Steve and I told you the reason why he was going to win is all of this stuff was going to be shepherded in under his watch, and people were going to be too busy saying we're winning, we're so back, we're all these other kinds of things that we're not paying attention to all of this. And Phoebe, I know Steve has he sends me stuff all the time about all the food he grows and all of his stuff, and I've been talking about I got to get quails, and I'm trying to figure out what part of my yard I can actually have 2 to 3 chickens of my own this spring and summer as well, because it's just, if you have the ability to, it's time to use. And I know Steve and I have been talking about it. And Steve, is the gardening channel up and going, or is that still like did I blow the lid on that?
No, I got some stuff on there. I just haven't. It's winter, so it's hard in a rental.
You don't have a lot of stuff in winter?
I literally go out there every day and grab some green onions to put on things. I can't remember who talks. Was it Judson? He thought you should eat every day on some kind of green onions, leeks, something like that, because they're so good for you. And again, we haven't had the sniffles the entire season so far. I mean, also maybe you saw the photo I sent you of all the medicine I made, but no, it's not the same. I hate DJT. This is just showing you, hey, this is what's going on. And this U.S. Department of Agriculture yesterday conditionally approved vaccine to protect the birds. DJT's administration may therefore soon face a fraught decision whether to join the ranks of other nations, including China, France, Egypt, and Mexico, to vaccinate poultry against H5N1. Again, just like back in 2017, Brandon bad. He didn't kill. He was killing them. So our way is going to be the good stuff. I don't know if you saw the tweet I put out earlier. I'm starting to think that Brandon obviously was selected. I'm all for it. Everyone's selected. You don't get elected, you get selected. He was selected. What if he was selected to make things just utterly insane and just go crazy on just everything nutty, so that when DJT comes back in, anything he does is going to be applauded because he's ridding the weird stuff away and sneaking this stuff in at the same time. Because I bring that up because remember day 2. Okay? Day 2 was the $500 million thing on Stargate. Here's back in Obama's.
When this happened,
I'm putting Joe in charge of mission control. For the loved ones we've all lost, for the families that we can still save, Let's make America the country that cures cancer once and for all.
The Bidens are bringing back the moonshot, an all-government approach to ending cancer. It's a personal issue for the family. Joe Biden's son, Beau, died of brain cancer in 2015. He was 46. The original initiative, part of the 21st Century Cures Act, brought together 20 federal departments, agencies, and offices with the goal of cutting-edge cancer research, providing nearly $2 billion to fund that research for 7 years. The money runs out next year. Nearly 2 million people a year are diagnosed with cancer in the U.S., and it remains one of the leading causes of death. Now, as president...
Surgery happens, then you have to wait a week or more to see if the tumor was removed fully. That anxiety waiting and the unknown is just excruciating. But today, we're a step closer to relieving that on patients and families. Today, we're announcing $150 million ARPA-H funding for some of the nation's cutting-edge cancer research institutions. That includes right here at Tulane University.
We gene sequence. Once we gene sequence that
last one, that was Obama a couple years ago, and this was day 2 of Trump.
That cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer.
Now, the difference is Trump's is 500 million. Brandon just wanted 150 million. Anyway, it goes back. You notice it's one darn group. Obama started it. Brandon kept it going. And Trump is putting the icing on the cake. No, it's just one of those things. You don't see this? I don't have the funds that like Leland and all those guys have. Yet I can find this. I mean, these guys should be finding even better stuff.
Yeah, they should, but it's obviously not part of the agenda, right? No. It's not part of what they want to get done, and that's a shame. That
this hasn't happened yet, but Gates is meeting with Trump and RFK this month to discuss gene editing jab for HIV. Hey, again, as Ryan Christian goes, this hasn't happened yet. But if I told you in 2024 that Gates would have repeated meetings, this will be his second with DJT about mRNA tech. Most Republicans would have said, "No way, not possible." Yet here we are. It's going to be number 2. And obviously, I don't know if you guys. I mean, did you see this one? I know this has been hot.
I probably didn't. You're more in the weeds on that one than I am.
One of the great people, one of the great businessmen. Thank you.
Oh, no, I did see the Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's not the first time he's been booed about it either. So.
No, if anybody hasn't seen that, he's just called the CEO of Pfizer a great human, great everything, great businessman, and people there are booing him. Wait, again, I had a guy, Murray with Catholic Family News reached out to me. He goes, he didn't hear about the Trump's calling himself the father of the jab. I said, it took me 3 seconds. Fine, here's the link.
Boy, did you go to the right place with Steve?
Come on. I mean, again, if he calls himself the father of the jab, he's not gonna cut the rug under those guys that are putting it out. And we played a video last week about the business decision with the getting more of their ROI back from the jibbity jabs. We are being played like a fiddle.
Yep. And I guess we're just gonna have to keep doing it because nobody else is. Where are the people? There's a ton of Catholics in this administration. Where are they to stand up to it? I know Steve's gonna hit me again with this one, not literally but figuratively. When I mentioned JD Vance, he's not gonna say anything because his boy Peter Thiel is playing him with the strings, making sure. So people and people are going to come after me every time, but like at CPAC this week, JD Vance was talking about his faith and all these other things. And I'm like, this is great. I love it. That's nice to see. I don't want to speak badly about that, but who is the guy that's going to be around to be like, Don, you got to stop this, man. You guys stop. I can't work for you if you do this. Do people not realize that we are all accountable? All of us, every single one of us, Trump to myself, we are all accountable at the 4 final things, right? Death, judgment, heaven, and hell. And that is for the things you do and the things you don't do as well. Okay. I think one of the 4 sins that cry out to heaven for vengeance is being a party to sin. Am I right on that? There's there's sins that cry out to heaven for vengeance, and that's one of them is being a party to sin. Now, I'm not saying, I got to watch my words. I'm not saying you are a party to it, but if you are in a position where you could at least say something or do something, you got to in this case because of the way these things are shaken out.
I'll put them up for you.
Oh, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't really. My glasses are downstairs, folks. I'm a wreck today, so I think I just got hit by the bus again.
Sodomites cry for people oppressed, injustice of wage earners.
What was the first one? Because I cut you off.
Murder.
Oh, okay. So
No,
I guess I was wrong. I guess I was wrong on that one. Okay. Well, okay. Then I'll take that back.
All right. Sorry. Now, I mean, again, go back to things that are going on. What do you see on your Twitter feed? I'll go ahead and show someone. By the way, here's see this tweet. He who saves his country does not violate any law. Oh, really? Now
Napoleon, huh? Now he's channeling the Napoleonic feelings of where he's going.
You do anything you want. Is that what that means? I mean, when the next guy comes in, say like, I don't know, Michelle or Grucham or whoever comes in, do they get to say the exact same thing? And I'm assuming all these cheerleaders right here going to say yes. I mean, you're going to question that he's, save what? Say, I don't know. Just, anyways, let's get back. You see this one right here, the XI thing?
Oh, yeah. That's the Gronk or Grok.
Yeah, Gronk 3.0 is coming out. Quiet transition from DARPA's XAI to Elon's XAI. Remember when DARPA wasn't a good thing, but yet now it's because Elon Musk is running it.
It's okay.
Let me get that MAGA hat on.
You got to throw on, I know you have the video one here. Do you have the Jeremy Boring Slobbery Fest?
Just the greatest living American. I think that he is, we should clap for Elon Musk. He's probably still here.
Jeremy, he doesn't like you.
He's probably still here, and any one of us at any moment could be the recipient of one of his children. So it's like a really
hold on. That ain't funny. That's not funny. I know Jeremy Boring has no sense or whatever. He calls himself a Christian, but it's not a joke, folks. The guy's got 14 kids by 4 different women, and all of these kids have some kind of problem. Either they're transgender or they're having medical bills or they're having some kind of thing. I know it's okay now on the right because we don't have any more conservative values. We've lost the battle. We'd have conserved nothing because people try to say, oh, well, we want to have a big tent and we want to make sure we're inclusive. Well, that doesn't mean that you accept this, but just because he's the richest man in the world and he bought X and he helped Trump and all this other kind of stuff, we're going to just kind of give him the drive-by and be like, okay, that's cool that you've impregnated another woman out of wedlock in the most,
well, just like
way in manner.
Just on to your point, I mean, how many people went after Mayor Pete for being a with kids?
I did.
Yeah. I mean, how you got the IVF to have a kid? This is the Treasury Secretary, Soros guy. Remember, I keep bringing this up every week. Soros guy. Who's that guy over his left shoulder?
Who's the guy over the left shoulder?
Oh, this guy right here over his left shoulder.
Yeah,
who's that in the middle? Who's this guy right here?
I can't read that.
It's his hubby.
Oh, okay.
He's got 2 kids. Do you see any? Again, it goes back to, do we see anybody call it and say, hey, that's not cool? Not only not the Soros part, but that part too. You were like that for Mayor Pete. Now you're quiet against it for Bissett, who's probably even worse than Mayor Pete. But because it's a DJT hire, we're cool with it, right? Is that how we roll?
To say on Elon's good side. I think Elon's the greatest living American. I think that Elon is one of the only people in the world actively trying to build a future. I think that for too long, the left has been the only ideological movement in the country who believes that there will be a future, and the future that they believe in is one that does not include us. And for too long, people on the right have sort of given up on the idea of a future. We've become a little bit black-pilled, a little bit nihilistic, a little bit conspiratorial and afraid that tomorrow must be worse than today, which is worse than yesterday. Elon doesn't subscribe to that at all. He He not only believes that America's best days are ahead of it, he's actively working to make that happen. And that is what you want in the government.
Yeah. Yeah. You want the guy that's going to throw a chip in your brain and, have the robots pretty much take you everywhere. Elon is he's a pioneer of you live in the pod and eat the bugs kind of dude.
Here's him last week.
But now there are people who do threads. And by the way, there may be multiple people who've done, an article that has 1,000 words. Technically, all 1,000 words could have made it onto X somehow. And effectively, now you have this remarkable repository. And I wonder how you think about that again, and how you think the creative community and those who were the original IP owners should think about that.
I don't know, except to say that by the time these lawsuits are decided, we'll have digital God. So ask digital God at that point.
Notice that he's serious as a heart attack, and you hear people kind of laughing in the back, but laughing like ha ha. I hope you're joking, right?
It's a nervous laugh. Yeah,
it's a Star Wars meme, or right? Really? You did do that, right?
Yeah, right.
These lawsuits won't be decided before on a time frame that is relevant.
But is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think we live, there's that, I don't know if it's actually a real Chinese saying or not, but may you live in interesting times.
Right.
It's apparently
why don't you fly over there and ask him? You like the Chinese so much.
I would prefer to, personally, live in interesting times. And we live in the most interesting of times.
Once you have humanoid robots and deep intelligence, you can basically have quasi-infinite.
Again, this is last week.
Products and services available. So with Tesla building the most advanced humanoid robot, then those humanoid robots can be directed by deep intelligence at the data center level. Say you can produce any product, provide any service. There's really no limit to the economy at that point. You can make anything. At that point, will money even be meaningful? I don't know. It might not be. The economic output is productivity.
Remember, he's for universal basic income.
Per capita
And
times
this guy also has more money than
have.
anybody else before or after God.
Form of humanoid robots, you have no meaningful limit on the number of robots, and the robots can basically do anything. Then you'll have a sort of a universal high income situation. Anyone will be able to have as many products and services as they want, with the exception of things that say have artificial scarcity, like a particular piece of art or something like that. But for any goods and services, they'll be available to everyone.
So you've been.
It's going to be a very different world, In fact, I recommend.
That's the Great Reset right there.
That people read maybe the Ian Banks, the culture books, for a frame of reference, because money is like a database or an information system for resource allocation. But if you don't have a scarcity of resources, it's not clear what purpose money has.
Have you watched the movie Idiocracy?
Yes.
How do you guarantee that we don't end up in that world if we don't need money, if AI can think for us and do all these tasks, if as people, we're dependent on something else to run the society and everything around it? How do we not end up in that world? In the long term, I mean.
Well, I think Idiocracy was basically saying that if smart people don't reproduce, but only dumb people do, then everyone's going to be dumb. That's the opening sequence of Idiocracy. The first 10 minutes are amazing. And I hear people unironically say the statements that are said in the opening sequence of Idiocracy, where, they don't have, they're too busy with their careers to have kids, and they keep.
He's kind of living that, isn't he? With all the kids from all different mamas. That's literally the opening.
Postponing having kids for their careers until they're too old to have kids, and then they don't have kids. And I've heard many people be like that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we might be headed to a bimodal human intelligence distribution, where there's a small number. It's kind of maybe like one like Brave New World, Aldous Huxley, where you've got sort of a small group of very smart humans, but then maybe the average intelligence drifts lower over time, potentially, because we have assortative mating, in the last few decades or several decades that did not exist before. So, But human intelligence, I think, will be dwarfed by machine intelligence. I'm not sure how to feel about that, except that it appears to be inevitable. That at some point, human intelligence will be a very small fraction of total intelligence. Digital intelligence will be more than 99% of all intelligence.
Here's him with the stimulus checks at CPAC.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about these DOGE dividend checks that everybody's talking about this week. And I know you tweeted out that you're gonna. Does everybody want like a $5,000 check in the mail? It sounds kind of good, right? And
now, somebody tell me how this is any kind of difference than the COVID checks that you got back in 2020, 2019.
By the way, folks, you ain't getting $5,000 back. At best, you're getting $2,500 because you know what the government's going to do? Oh, that's a nice $5,000 check you got there. Be a shame if we taxed it. Oh, yeah. Nope, the IRS is still there, so people are walking right into the trap. You think?
Yep. On IRS, you want to make a difference? Cut the IRS, keep your $5,000, and you'll end up making it. No,
abolish the IRS, and then I don't need your $5,000. That's
these conservatives are all jacked. Yay!
Yeah. Yep.
the best part about it would be knowing where it came from. That's $5,000 that you sent them last year.
Totally, it's money that's taken away from things that are destructive to the country. And from organizations that hate you to you. That's awesome.
Does it seem
now? To that point, I want proof of that.
Hey, they have the DOGE clock on the national debt thing, man. What are you talking about? It's right there.
Well, what's her thing? Here's, a couple of weeks ago, last week, she comes out with this sheet and she's reading a list of things.
It's only been a month, man. A couple
weeks. That's not bad. Yeah, a couple weeks.
It hasn't
was it last week or 2 weeks ago? She comes up like this with a little sheet. Oh, look at all this stuff. And it's bad. It's stuff that we don't want, right?
Yep.
Where's the proof? You just have a typed up Word document. You just hold it up. Hey, look at this going on. Trust us. Where is any link saying it's been ended? $0 funding, all that.
You could say the reaction of the USCCB with their funding being cut off, and then the fact that if you look at the Zillow prices around Loudoun County, all those places there's a lot of more houses for sale in Loudoun County than there was in January. So it looks like there's funding being cut off there. All could be anecdotal.
Could be. I mean, Florida's got. I watched a lot of housing things because we're hopefully one day be able to afford to buy a home, but Florida right now, there's a ton of homes. I mean, they're skyrocketing on in inventory.
Yeah.
A lot of the
South Carolina deserve that with all your terrible traffic. We'll continue.
But there's a lot of homes on first. There's a lot of more inventory. Nothing's gone down. But I mean, don't give me. Well, just because a couple weeks ago when she comes out saying, oh, the $50 million for Gaza condoms, and we showed you guys proved wrong, lie, total misrepresentation, or it was a lie. She was either told a lie or she was given wrong information. And all those guys lives on TikTok, and all those guys ran with it. It ended up being $50 million for HIV prevention, probably about, not $50 million for just condoms in general. Not to say that that's what we want, but it went to someplace in Africa, Gaza in Africa. It wasn't Gaza, as Trump literally said, you can do the voice better.
Goes to Gaza, goes to the people in Gaza as I'm getting ready for Trump Tower 2.0. That's right.
They're going to make bombs. They're going to make bombs out of the condoms. He was saying, I don't trust any of these guys.
We're going to do with 500 million condoms, Steve.
Talk about an improvised bomb.
Yeah, that's definitely an improvised explosive.
I mean, have you talked?
I mean, that's like glorious. That's like the best. The spoils of battle,
Spoils of battle. I like that. Is there traction on that?
Yeah. So I talked to the president. He's supportive of that, and so it sounds like that's something we're going to do.
Inflation and saving taxpayers billions and billions of dollars every single day.
Which would just increase inflation.
And there's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the DOGE savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens, and
only 20%, guys. That's
Trump
how much
and Musk to discuss sending U.S. taxpayers $5,000 checks using DOGE savings. Billionaire Elon Musk said on February 18th that he will discuss with President Donald Trump a proposal to send U.S. taxpayers rebate checks representing a portion of the money saved by the Department of Government Efficiency. The idea is that they will save a bunch of money and they will take a portion of that money that they've saved. Now, the idea is we'll save $2 trillion. We'll take a portion of that and give it back to each household, taxpayer household, and that dividend should be around $5,000 per household. That's the idea.
I'm in a way disappointed. It's too much gimmickry in this, and I don't understand it. So the proposal is that Trump and Musk says that we're saving so much money, we ought to give it back to the people, which sounds very good. So just cut taxes, let them keep it. But no, they want issue the checks, and taxpayers get $5,000 of checks, and because they're going to save so much more, they're not even going to use up all the saving. But to count the savings that they might get from cutting back, by firing a few people, it's not in iron stone. How many court arguments are going to be? How many court cases will there be? So there's a lot to be heard, but I don't see this as enhancing what has been already contributed to us, and that is exposure, audit, how horrible this is. And the people are really upset about this, and it represents a system of bankruptcy. But I don't see this emphasizing, that particular point. And actually, if you're going to save umpteen billions of dollars on spending, the budget, the spending has to go down, the interest rates have to go down, payment, and then the deficit and the debt that exists has to go down, and that's a big undertaking.
In other words, nothing's going to happen. They're going to give you a check, you're going to spend it in a month, and you're going to be back to where you were before, and the price has gone up because of inflation, because they printed more money. Yay!
Yep, but you got to buy a TV or whatever, so good for you.
Yeah,
it's just
I have that. Yeah, speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up.
That's what I do, buddy. That's what I do.
Here it is. Where is it right here? Oh, yeah, here it is. This came out earlier this week with RFK. Americans on food stamps will be banned from buying bad food and sugary drinks, Trump USDA chief said. Which knee-jerk reaction, we're all going, yeah, that makes total sense, right? Yeah, you should. You're on, SNAP or whatever. You shouldn't. You're paying your hard-earned money to, you're going to grocery cart. You probably have about 5 things in there. It costs $100, and then you got somebody in front of you that has the whole thing filled up, maybe 2 with Cokes and chips and all kinds of stuff, ice cream, and they get this little card that the government that you probably pay for their groceries. We get it. So when CBDC comes in, and as Rick said, you get that check because remember, Elon's for UBI. That's that whole thing during the Corona days with the checks. That was a UBI tryout. Cities and states try that out during those times. San Fran,
they loved it. They loved it.
Yeah. So
every time every time somebody sneezes, somebody goes, "Hey, let's go back into lockdown." People are so happy about that whenever it happens. They're like, "Can we please go back into it?"
Well, they'll get the CBDC in a form. Will come down. I know there's an EO, but he made it worse because it's going to be in a Bitcoin type thing.
Yeah, because
so when that comes down, you're going to be forced to buy whatever. You might not be able to buy what you want to buy. You might not be able to buy where you want to buy. You might be able to buy just in a certain area. 15-minute city idea mindset. So that's again slippery slope.
To quote Demolition Man. Once Taco Bell wins the fast food wars, that's the only thing you're going to be able to buy out of the fast food. So that'll be the only option there. Obviously, I go straight to the fast food. But yeah, I remember a couple weeks ago when I called, I was the only person when they got rid of pennies. I'm like, bro, it's a bad idea. They're slowly getting rid of physical money and they're going to replace it. And somebody said, Rick, you signed an EO saying no CBDC. You're right. You are 100% right. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. Just understand he did do the Bitcoin Reserve EO as well, executive order. So sleight of hand, right?
Rick, before anybody doesn't know what they're talking about, here's Rick's story right here.
Getting rid of the penny.
Brett,
there's the sodomite guy that we like because it's our.
We like him. He's on our side. He's our side.
Say President Trump wants to make the penny extinct, and that's part of the cost savings. Cost about 3 cents to make 1 cent, and even in Washington that math.
Technocrats love this.
Yep, and people, even your guy John Stossel, who's usually 100%. Is that his name? Am I saying his name right, John
Stossel? He's in the 90s. I would never say 100. He's in the 90s.
Yeah, he's usually on it. He's usually on it. And this one, he's like, great idea. This is such a wasteful thing. It's like, okay, whistle past the graveyard on that one, guys.
Because he's got another bad one where he's upset about people banning GMOs. Going, John, you know why? It's like the whole thing. You rain down aluminum from the sky in chemtrails to destroy the soil, or you want to flood out the farmland or anything like that. You want to get rid of the farmers by putting your farmers in, and then you have to. What's the seed they come in? Oh, we got this GMO seed that will fight against these diseases that we created, but you have to buy this, and it's a Terminator seed, which means that it doesn't reproduce seeds. So every year you have to buy this seed from us so you can eat. So you get this GMO thing that.
It grows.
Speaking of that, I got these
tomatoes, so don't worry about
wild apples seeds. They're from Kazakhstan. I call them the Bishop Schneider apples, and they're disease free because they've been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And the apples you get now are grafted on, which means root graft. You put it on, they graft the root. They haven't had time to get through all these. Like not an evolution. Don't want to use the word evolution in this sense, but they haven't had the time
almost de-evolution at this point.
Pretty much, to fight off these diseases. So they get destroyed from all kinds of different things, blight, worms, whatever it is. These apparently they're disease free because they've learned how they've experienced.
They've evolved.
Yeah,
those seeds have evolved to be resistant to all that stuff.
Yeah, immunocompromised one versus your mass immunization in a sense.
Yeah. So it's absolutely crazy how people are in such a euphoric state that they don't care. He can literally do whatever he wants right now. And people are just they're good with it. They're good with it because he stopped men from competing in women's sports. So, great on that. And
speaking of that, did you see that with Trump today? Upset about the Maine governor?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to talk about that tonight, where he's going to go he's going head to head with the governor of Maine for not complying with his executive order. I mean,
and I'm for the Maine. All right, I'm not for the tranny thing. I am for the Maine governor telling him to go pound sand, and Trump says I'll withhold federal funding. Good. Nobody should get federal funding.
That'd be a great precedent to set if you think about it, folks. Just because the federal government uses the idea of federal funding for everything, and
force your hand.
Force your hand, whether it's like you need to, highway funds or whatever case may be. That's what you hear. Well, if you don't do that, then, you're not going to get your highway fund money and all these other kinds of things. And it's a constant carrot and stick.
That's what happened in North Carolina about 8 years ago. If you guys remember about the trainees in the bathrooms, and the governor here was the one guy that was standing against it. And they used that. Obama went after him. So we took away federal funding. You had concerts being taken away. NCAA
the All-Star game left Charlotte. It left Charlotte to go somewhere else. You had Apple. You had all these major companies doing all that. And
he finally caved in because everybody else they didn't have the guts to stand behind him. But again, if you just have that mindset. Go pound sand. Hey, I don't live in Maine. You do live in Maine? You want to be something idiotic? That's Maine. Again, it gets in that. You want federal? You want centralization. Because you're going to get centralization in a way you don't want it ever in your life. So be like, hey, you know what? I'm not for the trainees up there, but if Maine wants to do it, either people in Maine convert them or you move out of Maine.
And that goes back to this Monday, President's Day, and the Lincoln worship that went there. And of course, you would be a crazy person if you were like, no, actually, Lincoln's probably the worst. And they would be like, what? All these other kinds of things, because the Lincoln worship was even harder this Monday than past ones. But yes, the reason why you have transgenders in bathrooms, the reason why you have federal funding, the reason why you have all of these things is because of Lincoln and his legacy of pretty much bombing or beating anybody that got out of line. I mean, being an Italian, I have to give Lincoln credit. He was like the first guy. He was the first mobster, right? He was the first, he was just the head of the biggest crime family.
Garibaldi was close to running the Union Army. He came over with the 48er. He came over then, and he wanted to run it, and Lincoln didn't answer him in time. So he ended up going back, and they ended up having regiments in New York and somewhere else called the Garibaldi regiments. But in that one book talking about most of the people that were fighting were not from the United States in the North.
No, the Irish were getting off the boats and being put on another boat. I mean, the Gangs of New York is a terrible movie, but like the opening scenes and stuff like that, where Scorsese uses the shots of the dock, where guys are coming in and they're walking by the caskets that are being brought back, and then they're kind of just being put back on the next boat to be shipped off down to the South. It was fought by immigrants essentially. So yeah,
there was a lot of Irishmen that saw in the South that looked at the other Irishmen going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. Patty O'Brien, what are you doing?
It was Gettysburg? Guys and Generals. I think it was Guys and Generals where the guy says that. He goes, he sees another Irishman over there and goes, and obviously it's a historically fictional movie, but he says something like, if they remember what they were fighting for over there against England, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was But in the games, there was it John Cease? Not Cease. Shoot. If you look up the book, Washington's KKK, the guy that wrote it, Chodes, he's a playwright up in New York. He has an argument that New York was a Confederate state, and they actually went after them. And part of the gangs in New York. But anyway, we're getting off topic on that. But anyway, you'll see it. But Germans, the 48ers, the failed German revolutions over there came over here.
There's actually the term for that, the Copperheads. The people who in the North didn't agree with the North doing what they were doing. So they were there's actually a movie. It's a low budget.
There's a movie called Copperheads.
Yeah, there's a movie called Copperheads. It's not a bad film. It's actually, it's a pretty decent film out there. And so, yeah, of course, the narrative is that everybody in the North was united in the destruction of slavery when slavery wasn't even on the ballot until 2 years in. And that's the Declaration, the Emancipation Proclamation is the greatest tactical maneuver that Lincoln ever pulled, because he isolated the South from France and England. Because the South was desperate. The South was desperate.
Douglas called him the worst person for the Negro in the world.
Yeah. Well, the South wanted either England or France to recognize them, because if they could, then they would have gotten reinforcements from the French or the English, and then it would have been over. If they got support from either one of those, it would have been a totally different thing. But the Emancipation Proclamation separated the South because England and France by that time had discontinued the slave trade, and they were pretty much out of it. So eventually, and you showed me a couple pages, Steve, where it's like it would, and I made this argument too. Slavery would have been gone in the South, I think, within like 50 years, or it would have eventually economically not been viable. So the idea that the South was dependent on it is it's all made up. It's all
when you see people tweet about abolition now, we need to be the abolitionists of then. The abolitionists then, they didn't like slavery, but they hated black people. They didn't want them anywhere on the continent, which is why they wanted it. They said the glory of the coming of the Lord. Whereas Sherman, who is actually, there's evidence of him being a straight up commie, him and his brother, which the anniversary of him burning down Columbia was the 17th of this week. First place he burnt was the Erskine Convent in Columbia, South Carolina. And then I have one of the books, I have republished the book by the priest that wrote that on Cecil Press. The second place he went after was the prisons. Why? Because, as the priest said, that's where the masses were said. And they talk about the Sherman, the glory of the coming of the Lord was the pretty much purifying the sound so these guys would come in, and they're making their image and likeness and get off these guys, get everyone else off the land. Lincoln talked about colonization of Haiti, putting the slaves out somewhere else, getting them out of the land. No one wanted them to go west. It wasn't that they didn't want slavery out west. They didn't want to live with anybody like that out west, which is why you see northern, if you hear any about abuses of slaves, it was normally northern owners that did it because, quote, they didn't grow up with them. So that all the other guys, the Southerners, grew up together, and they had a very, as Alexis de Tocqueville wrote, he was contemporary, the races live in harmony together. You ever read that? I remember reading that 10 years ago going, what the hell's that happen with this? When you get told that, but he was there and saw it. How's that work together? When you read all this other stuff, it makes sense that they live together, they grew up together. We still do, but now it's everyone trying to make it. Everyone hate each other.
Yeah, well, it's too complicated for your average American to understand. So it's just slavery bad, and Lincoln good. And that's pretty much the abridged, the Twitter version, the old Twitter version where it was only 140 characters. The Twitter version of the Civil War: slavery bad, Lincoln good. # Civil War. And so that's pretty much how they were able to get around it. But one last thing, we'll touch on a couple things within the Catholic Church. The first one being the USCCB suing the DOJ because it wasn't abortion that they wanted, the hill they wanted to die on. It wasn't same-sex marriage that they wanted, the hill they wanted to die on. No, it's when they lose their money, their monetary access to USAID. And some of the priests I know that I follow on X, they just don't read the room. They're calling their parishes and people on here Catholics. You guys just don't know what you're talking about. You think you know what you're doing, but you're wading into the waters. It's like, Father, I don't have to. The Lepanto Institute has been banging out facts for years on what the USCCB has been doing as far as using the money from the federal government to house illegal immigration. And they always want to hide behind, where they call themselves refugees. Well, we know Joe Biden for a fact redefined the word refugee. It was pretty much anybody fleeing to these United States. Didn't matter what it was. You could be an economic refugee, Steve, which means I'm looking for a better economic life. Well, that's not a refugee in the old stance. That's a refugee is like from Rwanda while the Rwandan genocide is happening. Or you could even make a case that the South African Boer would be refugees right now, trying to get away from what's happening to them. But no, you have the USCCB once again out of step and out of touch with the people of their the flock, dying on the hill of immigration, which is what President Trump won on. Literally won on getting, people who are not here legally out of the country. And if they want to come back through legal means, that's fine. But the USCCB is now stomping its feet because they lost access to their monetary feed. And it's just like, come on, can you guys just not right now, please?
I haven't kept up much with it. Like you said, Lepanto with Hitchborn, he's done yeoman's work on that for a year. So you put a gun in my head, I couldn't give you a two-sentence explanation of what's going on with it. And it is kind of funny seeing them lose their minds over things like this. But again, distraction over there, and then we got this going on. CIA has
drones. Yep.
Yeah, secretly deploying MQ-9 Reaper drones over Mexico, tracking drug cartels as part of Trump's plan to treat them like terrorist organizations. Again, that was the drone bomber in chief from the first. He drone bomb more people than Obama. He's already killed people in Somalia. Now we're targeting Mexicans, which again goes slippery slope. Who gets to define the terrorist? When do you get to use that against us? Remember the whole thing with the anti-Semitic language? Very vague. Mm-hmm. Anybody that speaks out is quote unquote could be kicked out.
Pam Bondi actually just said something about that at CPAC, where she was talking about like students who come here on visas and threaten. She didn't say who they were threatening, but we all knew exactly what she's talking about. Threatening American students had to be deported. They had to leave. They can't be allowed to exist here. And that's very frightening in that language as well. So
as long as we get the bombs over there, I mean, these are bombs that you can't move, but we get in Israel.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, I mean, yeah, no. That Gaza real estate's not going to,
blow up itself.
It's not going to clear itself out. because we got things we have to do. And then secondly, I'm going to drag Steve into this, even though I don't think he wants to. Pope Francis is in the hospital. I think it's day 7. This came out yesterday. I talked about it. They've refuted this pretty hard today. I've seen a couple bishop, I think it was the dean of the College of College of Cardinals, said that the Pope has no intentions of resigning. So I guess as some of the people who were in my chat, they were listening last night, that trial balloon went over like a lead balloon, because people are still upset about Benedict resigning. So
making the worst decision in the history of the church.
Yeah. So the idea that you would have back-to-back popes resigning sets a terrible, terrible precedent. Because let's say you elect Cardinal Sarah, right? The conservative trad dream, you get Sarah. Then you would have even more of a potential schism, because you'd have the cult of Francis, all the bishops and all those people would support him. And then you would have all that would support Sarah. I'd rather have Francis, for as long as he's alive, be the head of the church, no matter what he does. I know that's not a popular thing, than have a split between like a uber conservative Pope and Francis still being alive as Pope Emeritus, or whatever the new position would be for that. It's pray for the Holy Father. I pray he gets better, and I pray he goes back to the Vatican. And this is just a hiccup.
You see what I put up. I was like, just to talk about who you want as Pope is such a distraction and a waste of time, because it's not up for us anyways. Yeah. So just to give 5 seconds to that thought is a waste of 5 seconds. Just when God's in charge, let him do his thing. He don't need our help for it. We should, if we merit a bad Pope, we should work to, merit a good one. And instead of tweeting harder, maybe we should be praying harder. And Lent's coming up. Maybe you should focus on becoming your best Lent before it might be your last Lent too. But you want to work on it. It's just like getting on a team. You got to work your butt off to merit to get on a team. It's not just talk about it, which we do a great job of yapping about it. We never do a lot of things of working at it. We tweet though. If prayers were tweets.
Oh yeah, how many souls in purgatory we could have freed if prayers were tweets? I'm not even trying to be like, if I'm bombastic, purgatory would probably be empty if we tweeted as much as we prayed for the souls in purgatory. I mean, if you think about it, we're blasting out tweets by the hour. So it's kind of, I know I'm being bombastic in that regard, folks, but think about how many of your favorite Catholic accounts tweet all day. Instead of actually, maybe they are. I'll give them that. Maybe they are. Maybe they haven't eaten all day while they're tweeting, right? Maybe they're doing something like that. I don't know. I don't want to judge anybody else, but it just looks bad. I think the optics on it, and that's a very big word for people, optics, is not great. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Did we actually run through all our topics today?
Make Europe great again, ladies and gents. It's your boy Elon. America first, be danged.
Yep, that's
last in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Lent's coming up real quick. It is steamrolling towards us. So
just the final things I had up just to show everyone was gold sides after finding a record high. Home sales drop.
Gold's going to go through the roof once Elon live streams Fort Knox.
Yeah, no kidding.
Once he goes through Fort Knox and checks that out.
Yep. Arm sales drop big time. Going to drop more. Government says money is not your property, so it can take yours. This is from the DOJ. Claims seizing $50,000 from a small business doesn't violate property rights because money isn't property. Again, this goes back to the idea, if you ever read the Declaration of Independence and can't go, there's a time when you should just break away or create a new one. We've way past that time. And
a long train of abuses.
Long train. By the way, you ever thought about when you read it, he's not condemning monarchy per se. He's condemning King George.
Yeah, that
version
of the monarchy. Yeah.
Here's the pentagram. Says Hisak's order will redirect spending, not actually make any cuts. And that's shocking to who? Nobody?
No one at all. Because why would you be shocked at that in any way, shape, or form?
And in sports, USA and Canada hockey rivalry boils over 3 fights in the first 9 seconds. Canada victorious in the season. in the what is it, exhibition games, whatever it was.
It's their version of the All-Star game. It's called the Four Nation thing. So yeah,
one booed. Canadians booed the national anthem, and then we booed the Canadian anthem, and then fights were breaking out.
All I know is Kennedy Hall is in his aura right now because the Canadians beat the US. So congratulations, Kennedy.
They care about it until that happened. They're like, you know what? Screw this.
Yeah. Congratulations, Kennedy. Yeah, I'll give you that one. You know, to the winner goes the spoils in that regard. You guys get bragging rights, so
all
can't get mad at
500 people that care about hockey get to watch it.
Yeah, there's a good amount of people that care
about
it.
A little bit more. It's not a southern thing; it's a northern thing. It's because it's cold up there. We don't practice hockey down south because the lakes don't freeze.
Yeah, no, that's true. Except like right now, but it is what it is with the.
Yeah, that's geoengineering for you.
Yeah, it is. It is. Can we stop? Can we?
That. I'm glad you brought that in. You've been on a roll on this.
I am. You can thank my my knickknacks here, my little nicotine lozenges.
Perlin-Jerry is the author of The Uterine Crisis, one of the first books to link environmental toxins with the staggering rate of women's reproductive illnesses. In 2006, she was chair of Maine's first global warming conference. She has written for E!, the environmental magazine, and London's The Ecologist.
See how you tied the beginning to this?
Ancient cultures used to do native tribal dances to pray for rain, to bring areas that were very dry and have good rainfall. In the 20th century, clouds were seeded by numerous countries around the globe with various chemicals to produce rain. China was just doing this over
This is the Massachusetts School of Law.
The summer in Beijing to make sure that there weren't any rain, that there wasn't any rain during the Olympics. But all this has changed dramatically with the U.S. military's secretive research and plans to control the planet's natural weather. This has not been given very much press, and we have to remember that we have a corporate-owned.
Just because it takes long, I'll just show you the thing. She talks about the weather. They're going to own the weather in 2025. Air Force wants to force control the weather by 2025. It's, this year. There's the PDF for it.
There it is and everything. There's the PDF showing that it's legit. So
owning the weather in 2025. Literally top. You see all the colonels, majors that are part of it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the brave new world.
Yeah. I hope everybody enjoys it because you don't have a choice. You voted for it. You literally, I mean, it didn't matter that you voted for it or not, but you still voted for it. So there you go. You have that in that regard. But all right. So I'm going to throw it to you first. Who do you got for Saint of the Week and for Cry Room?
Well, I'm going to go whoever, Saint of the Week, I'm going to go whoever started Mexit. The northern states of Mexico are entering talks to declare independence from Mexico.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
When you talk about it, fantastic. There's a lot of guys I know that in the secessionist movement, they have not heard about this, but there's a big movement out of Mexico, the northern states wanting to get out of Mexico. Hot diggity dog. May more of that happen everywhere. Idaho, greater Idaho movement's pretty much getting more fuel to the fire. They're looking at they'll probably end up breaking away from Oregon and joining Idaho, which would probably just give Idaho one more seat.
Yeah.
And not do much anything really to Oregon. It just gets people out of Oregon into Idaho.
I mean, the crazy thing is Oregon is beautiful and very like traditional outside of Portland. And so much like Northern California, as I've said time and time again around here, but it's a shame, those cities, they just dominate everything.
Yeah. My Cry Room, I'm going to go with, maybe it's controversial, maybe not. Catholics for Catholics. Having this gala in Mar-a-Lago. $1,200 ticket, $1,200 to $1,500 ticket. So, the poor people can go to it. And they're calling for a prayer rally. Is that a pep rally? Is this a fundraiser? You got guys who've never said anything critiquing Donald at all in this. They did it. They've done it the 4 years he was in there before. I think they might have done it last year too. But and then they're trying to get 100 priests to go to it too as well, and people want to sponsor a priest, so they want the priest to leave their parish on St. Joseph's Day. So you're not going to mass, you're not going to have any confession, you're not going to have anything to go down to do this. For some reason, I don't know. And again, starting at $1,200 to $1,500 a ticket, not including hotel, not including travel, not including a lot of things. I just, you know me. It's just, again, it's just the Trumpism religion. And at the bottom of it says, this is not affiliated with Donald Trump at all. The entire speaking group.
Except it's at Mar-a-Lago.
It's literally the living room.
I mean, it's literally there. So.
Hey, it's Michael Flynn, advisor of Trump. Chris Nation, something under Trump. This guy, another guy under Trump. Pardoned by Trump. This guy by Trump. And everything's related. I mean, is that a private area, a public area? You're just like, you know what? I want to go into Mar-a-Lago and just have a conference. Who do you call for that? You probably have to call Don.
Yeah, you got to call somebody on his team. You got to call somebody on his team to make sure you can arrange all of that, and it's not a great thing in that regard. So great job on that one, everybody.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of not being able to have any principles to call out things that are going on, like the stuff we listed. Yeah, but anyway, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So for my saint of the week, I have a couple of up in Raynham. It looks like Massachusetts. I know it's Massachusetts. Doesn't get a lot of love, but they do. The Raynham Police and Fire Departments of Massachusetts saved 2 lives in 2 days, showcasing just how fast they can go when they're actually allowed to do it. So those are, the Raynham Police and Fire Departments for, getting out there and helping out as much as they can. And, every once in a while they do their job instead of being the brown shirts for the regime. My cry room will be Elon Musk. I know there's more cry rooms than saints right now to pick out. And so Elon Musk for impregnating another woman out of wedlock. And he picked probably the craziest one to do so, because now she thought she was going to get married to Elon. And then since Elon was like, no, that's not going to happen, now she's making his life an absolute living nightmare. What a shock when you just kind of like randomly play God with a bunch of random women. So yeah, you're a driver for that, buddy. So yeah, no, we weren't at CPAC, Brian. I can't believe they didn't invite us either. Maybe next year. It
was shocking, right? Yeah.
Maybe next year they'll give us some seats there. But
I love Free Prince's post. America needs a 50-state solution. Mass secession.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the state of Texas, the Republic of Texas, can absolutely take care of its own, and we don't need any of these other things, and we don't need any of your nonsense from like California.
I'm going to have Jeb on to talk about the Dixie this week, but there's a chapter in there that talks about how the South was actually moving to a decentralized monarchy all over the South. When you hear people say we need a king, they were moving to that.
Yeah,
yeah, they got to destroy it all. So they got a blueprint.
Yeah, it absolutely could work if they wanted to. Only just has to have where there's a will, there's a way. There's just no will right now.
Yeah, we saw that a lot of guys were yelling at them for the haka, and
I just wish they wouldn't use the haka for everything.
Yeah, I get that too. I get that. I mean, you can overdo it, especially if you're just doing that and leaving. But
yeah, like the haka's great in 1995. So
Kamate.
Yeah, right. Now everybody does it, and it's like, come on, man. The haka and the macarena they're like the same thing at this point. It's just a bunch of hand gestures.
There are people from New Zealand send all hate mail to
info at the Armed Catholic while it's still around. Info at thearmedcatholic.com. Yeah, that would be my if you'd like to direct all hate mail, or you could accost me on Twitter as I've been all day. So it's fine. I don't mind being corrected. Gotta have some skin and gotta have some thick skin if you're going to be on these platforms and engage in any way, shape, or form. So it is what it is. All right, I guess that's it. We are done with news from the PEW. Please like, subscribe, and share the news. from the Pew. We will talk to you all next week. God bless and Viva Cristo Rey.